Hi students, John Riley here, coming at you via video due to what? That's right, quarantine. Well, things are changing. I'm back at Kit Carson Park. Things are getting loosened. They're starting to open up the parking lot again. I'm able to play disc golf again. That's nice. Restaurants are opening, barber shops and hair salons. And you might not have heard, but even church starting next Sunday, we're going to have services, but it's going to be different. It's not going to feel the same, and it's not going to be normal. We still don't have permission for youth to gather together. In fact, in the guidelines for having church, it says that children have to stay with their parents the whole time they're at the facility. Which means you can't leave them, go hang out with your friends. You're going to have to be wearing masks and stuff like that. It's not going to be the same, and it's going to be smaller gatherings of 100 people or less in the groups where we're meeting. But nonetheless, it's something. And it's starting up next week. They're going to ask us to wait 21 more days before they reevaluate, and then hopefully, and I'm praying, restrictions get opened up so that we can gather together again. Well, I just finished playing around in disc golf with some buddies, and we followed the rules here, kept our masks on, social distance, and it was good to be outside, I tell you what. But honestly, here I'll take my mask off. You can see I took it off a few times to get a drink of water. I ate a pineapple one time, and then I would put it back on. But I'm pretty sure I have lines on my face because it gets hot. It's not pleasant. It's not the way we want to live a lot of the time. But I think it's important that believers set an example to others. And even though I was personally super opposed to wearing masks, and I had announced publicly that, you'll never catch me doing that. Now here I'm doing it. Why? Because of consideration for others. When we look at 1 Timothy chapter 6 today, there's one particular phrase. There's a lot of good stuff in there, but one phrase that is especially helpful. It says this: godliness with contentment is of great gain. I'll tell you it again without the mask to make sure you can hear it clearly. Godliness with contentment is of great gain. And I want that mindset to be something that we chew on this week. How do I have a mindset of trusting God and be content with that? One of the things I teach students when we're looking at 1 Timothy chapter 6 is this beginning paragraph. When it talks about slaves and masters, I say replace the word slaves with students and masters with teachers or coaches or pastors or parents, anybody who's in authority over you. And then this passage makes perfect sense because it's about respecting authority. So I'll read it like that. All who are under the yoke of education should consider their teachers worthy of full respect, so that God's name and our teaching may not be slandered. Those who have believing teachers should not show them disrespect just because they are fellow believers. Instead, they should serve them even better because their teachers are dear to them as fellow believers and are devoted to the welfare of their students. So, students should work hard. Yes, slavery is wrong. This passage in here is dealing with the issue that they had at hand and telling believers who were trapped in it how to deal with it at that exact moment. And that shouldn't not be taken as an endorsement of it. But a lot of us have bosses or coaches, and definitely have teachers and parents, and we should treat them with the same kind of respect that Paul's encouraging Timothy to have. These slaves and masters have that same kind of mindset. If it applies with slaves and masters, it definitely applies even more with students and teachers. And the next little part is about the love of money and corruption that happens when people are too dedicated to stuff. And I just want to encourage students to not let that be your focus in life. Make loving God and caring about others be the most important thing. Yeah, in life you're going to have to get a job, you're going to have to get work and provide for your life and for your family and be responsible. But watch out for the traps. Notice the traps is mentioned here. I found some interesting pictures of traps online. This one of traps that were used in the Vietnam War, actual traps that people would step in and fall into. Well, the same thing happens biblically, spiritually, when we put money in front of the other priorities, namely putting God's word and caring for others first. That's what should be most important, not money on the top of the list. That is falling into a kind of trap. Here's how Paul says it to Timothy, chapter 6, about money versus contentment. It says, but godliness with contentment is a great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. There's a trap. You can fall into it and pierce yourself with many griefs, being eager for money. And rather, godliness with contentment is great gain. In your groups, you're going to especially talk about what does that look like? How do we pursue godliness with contentment, especially in the culture we're in right now? And then the most important thing I want you to do in your groups is read verses 11 through verse 16 together. 11 through 16, kind of Paul's final charge to Timothy about seeking after godliness, seeking after doing it the right way. And see what that says. Ask yourself how you're doing with that. And is Paul's charge to Timothy the way he's encouraging him to live? Is that the way you're trying to live? Is that on your radar? Talk about how you can help each other with that process. Godliness with contentment is a great gain. All right. Thanks, everybody.